So a scatter plot is, as you can see, made typically by adding a point geom. Yeah. This point geom has a number of arguments that you can set. You can color your points. You can set the size of the points, and when you set the size of the points, it means you're making what is called a bubble plot. That's basically a scatter plot, but with points in different sizes. Yeah. You can set transparency on the points, you can set the shape of the points, and so on. Now, the point geom will put points with the same value on top of each other. So you will not see that it's 2 points. It will look like 1. It's not always what people want. So if you want to avoid that, you can use, instead of the point geom, you can use the jitter geom. And then he will add a bit of spread to the points. So that if 2 points have the same value, you see them as 2 separate points. Like here, for instance. Yeah. So it's a different geom. It has the same arguments. It has 2 additional ones. You can set the width of the spread, how much spread, and you can set the height of the spread, yeah, in both directions. So here in this example, I made the default scatter plot using the point geom. Here I made a jitter plot, so with some spread in the points, and I told him you can use 10% of this total distance between these 2 categories here on the x-axis. So 10% of this total distance can be used for spread. So going back to my original data set, yeah, with my concentrations and my 2 drug treatments, I can make a scatter plot. How? By saying drug should go along the x-axis, concentrations should go along the y-axis, and I'm adding a point geom to make a scatter plot. The point geom itself, so there will be points that are plotted on top of each other. The point geom itself has a position argument that you can set to jitter, to add spread. But as you can see, it adds an enormous amount of spread. That's not what you want. Yeah. So I never use this, never. Instead of this, I use the jitter geom. So I add a jitter geom. Still a lot of spread. The default amount is a lot. But here, at least, by looking at the documentation of my jitter geom, I can show you that at least here you can set how much spread you want by these 2 arguments. Yeah. So if I set width is equal to 0.1, I get a relatively nice spread out scatter plot. So, and as I said, if you want to make a bubble plot, I'm first going to make it and then I explain. So a plot where your points have a certain size that has a meaning. If you want to make a bubble plot, you make the default scatter plot. So these are the cars data again. I put one of the columns horsepower on the x-axis. I put the gas usage on the y-axis. And then I make a bubble plot by setting the size of the points equal to one of the other columns in empty cars. So I will show. It's one of the columns here of empty cars.